everyone. I hope that you're doing great. My name is Ljubica and I work at Elite International. I'm going to guide you through today's presentation and afterwards we're going to have a Q&A session. So as some of you may already know, we have already hosted 2 webinars covering the fundamentals of cross-channel marketing. But considering that it is a very popular topic and there is so much more to tell you about it, we decided that we wanted to host another webinar that will be related to cross-channel marketing. But this time we're going to focus on a different aspect on how cross-channel marketing can help you with a different aspect for your marketing strategy. And I'm talking about customer engagement. So in this webinar, I'm going to tell you 4 different tactics that you can use to increase your customer engagement. But before I go in depth about it, I would like to share some basic information about why cross-channel marketing and customer engagement is very important for your business. Okay, so let's start. So taking into consideration the role of customer engagement as paramount in a company's business processes, marketers are adopting marketing efforts that take customers into account more and more each day. And this is relatively a new customer-centric approach that is not only ultimately contributing to the level of customer satisfaction, but at the same time, it also impacts the performance of the business and its revenue streams. And right in the middle of this intersection is customer engagement. So even though there are many benefits of using real-time customer engagement for your brand, I'm just going to stick with this for now. So the first benefit of using customer engagement for your brand is that it enables you to stand out from the crowd. Now, this especially works if you are working in a very saturated market, which means that no matter how cool or useful your product or service is, it's very likely that your competitors are also offering the same. So what you can do to stand out from the crowd is to have an amazing customer engagement and to have proper communication with your customers. Because when you have a proper communication established between you and your customers, we can move on to build a very strong bond between you and your customers, which takes us to the second key benefit, and that is that customer engagement helps you to build trust between you and your customers. Now, this is a very important thing because customer engagement represents the emotional relationship between you and your customers. And in today's modern digital world, customers really want to be heard. They want you to acknowledge their knowledge and needs, to acknowledge their needs and wants. So it's very, very important that you are putting some effort into this. And once your customers feel happy and heard, this means that you can work on boosting your customer satisfaction. This is a key. This is the third key benefit of using customer engagement for your brand, because customer satisfaction really represents how much your product or service or even your brand in general is meeting your customers' criteria. And it's very important to make sure that your customer satisfaction levels are high because they really help you to retain your customers and to prevent bad word of mouth. And in a recent study, it was shown that the all engaged customer represents 23% of the revenue compared to the average customer. So this means that you really have to put your effort here because the right marketing activities will help you to increase the return of investment. So in order to succeed in this, it's very important to have the right tactics and to use them the right way. So in this webinar, I'm going to tell you more about these 5 different tactics, starting with enhance the follow-up message via multiple channels, provide unique user experience through hyper-personalization, using action-triggered push notification to deliver real-time value, retargeting ads as your secret weapon for customer engagement, and the last one is to always do A/B testing and optimize. So let's start with the first one. Okay, let's talk again about the first tactic. So, in the past few decades, in the last decade, we've seen the development of cutting-edge technology. So here we're talking about artificial intelligence, virtual reality, chatbots, etc. And compared to this, email can seem like a little bit obsolete, but in fact, even today, email marketing is going pretty strong and is one of the most efficient strategies to increase your engagement. And you have probably heard about the proven tactic of follow up on an unopened emails. This is a very simple process in which you're doing following up on your non-openers after some predefined time with an improved subject line. So we're talking here about creating the ultimate user journey flow to deliver a relevant and meaningful user experience to each of your customers. But the truth is that not all of your customers are going to enjoy reading emails. In fact, it's very likely that they might not even open them. So so what you can do in this case is to combine a follow-up tactic with multiple other channels in order to maximize the engagement. So we're talking about channels here such as push notifications, in-app messages, SMS, and web browser messages as well. So I'm going to tell you about an example about how you can use this tactic over here. So let's say that you want to send a promotional campaign to your customer base, and the desired action will be for your customers to go to a certain landing page. So you send an email to the customers, and unfortunately only 20% of them have opened it. So in this group here, we're having the first group of customers who not only opened the email but also did the required action. And in the second group here, we have users who did open the email but unfortunately didn't take the required action. So in this case, what you can do is to try it with email once again and see if they are going to do the desired action. And we're now going to focus to the third group of customers who didn't really open our email. So in this case, we can do, for example, instead of sending them again and again emails, we can use the same promotional message and show them as an in-app message to all the customers who will open the mobile app the next day, or even as a pop-up on your website to those who come to visit it. So now let's talk more about the second tactic, which will tell us more about how to deliver unique user experience through hyper-personalization. So when customers engage with your brand on a regular basis, they expect you to give them personalized experience and relevant content, and this means both online and offline. So here it's very important to not fall behind the competition, but to strive to exceed your customers' expectation. And you will achieve this by putting personalization at the top of your priority pyramid. So while engaging with your brand through different devices and channels, your customers leave a trail of data about themselves. For example, what they're doing, who they are, what they want to purchase, etc. And in order to deliver highly personalized user experience, what you should really do is to carefully collect and manage this data. And furthermore, you have to enhance it and finally integrate it into a complete customer view. So right now, I'm going to tell you what you should actually accomplish before creating the supreme personalized campaign. So the first thing to do is to capture your customer data. Now, we talked more about this in our previous webinar, but I'm going to tell you right now a little bit more. So in order to be able to capture your customer data, you need to have a proper data management platform and data management processes in place. And once you have this by your side, you will be able to capture your customer data coming from different sources and to stream it down to consumer systems such as your customer engagement platform. And once you are able to track your customer data, you can move on to the next step, and that is creating data-driven personas. So this means that with the data you track from your customers, you are able to know a lot of information about them. And you can use this data to define a real-life persona from each of your target groups and to personalize your content and offers for each of these groups of audiences. The third key step here is to also define the digital channels. So it's very important to decide which channels your target audience prefers the most and what type of content works the best for them. And I also want to note here that it is extremely important what time they're likely to be online as well. And we came to the fourth step, and that is delivering dynamic content. So this here means that you should personalize your customer's experience by delivering dynamic content within the messages you send. And this can be based on the data you've captured, the personas you've defined, and the channels that you're also targeting. So with a good amount of data about your customers, you have everything you need to create a flawless customer journey. Now, for example, when your customers browse on your website for a specific product or service, you will gain insight into what they need and when they need it. And the next step is to use this and, let's say, then craft a particularly timely message that is highly relevant to them. So on the slide here, I'm showing you an example of a food app that we built for one of our clients. And we have this in-app message that says that recommends a recipe. So when you know your customer behavior, and in this case, let's say that our customer, our user is really into Italian food, and we know this for a fact. So we craft our message that will suit the needs of this particular user. And in return, it's very likely that the user is going to open the message. So the idea of personalization is to start small and then move towards more progressive tactics as you dive into the journey. And all the less or more significant steps that you take will ultimately contribute to your customer satisfaction and will keep them to come back to your brand. So let's talk about our third tactic, which is using action-triggered push notifications to deliver real-time value. Since customers always have their devices with them, at least most of the time, one highly straightforward tactic that can increase your engagement is to give them real-time value based on their actions or location. And one powerful tool that can help you to give your customers more responsive and relevant user experience is triggered messaging. So triggered messages are an outreach to your customers, such as push notifications or email, which are sent right after a user completes a predefined action, such as making a purchase or signing up for your newsletter. It's very important to note here that there are plenty of automation tools that make this feature very powerful when it comes to the sophistication of its elements. You can set goals and triggers based on user actions like page visits or URLs, and you can also choose your audience based on attributes that apply to them, such as what type of device they're using, location, etc. So what you get at the end here are well-tailored and relevant messages that will ultimately increase your conversion rate. So on the slide here, I'm also showing you another push notification that reminds customers that works as a triggered message, but I'm going to tell you more about it right now. So I'm going to give you a real life example how you can use triggered messages with real life examples. So one of the most popular ways of using triggered messages is to celebrate milestones or expressing gratitude for your customers' loyalty. And you can set triggered messages to reward them for their loyalty or achievements. This way, you're encouraging them to stick around and further engage with your brand. Now, for example, I'm going to give you an example with YouTube. When your YouTube channel reaches 100 subscribers, YouTube is sending you a message in which they congratulate you for reaching 100 subscribers. And as you can see, this part is very creative because there are plenty of ways that in which you can show your customers where you can celebrate their loyalty and appreciate them for coming back to your brand. Another example is to remind customers of incomplete actions. Now, let's say that, for example, your customer has browsed some items, selected them, and put them in their shopping cart. However, they abandoned the shopping cart and left without buying the items. So after a certain period, a few hours maybe, you can send a triggered message to remind your customer about the almost finished purchase and encourage them to complete it. And to even boost this further on, you can additionally give them a 10% discount. And on the slide here, this is the example that I started telling you about. So for example, if a user was browsing through the recipes and they found one that they really liked and they decided to save it, but unfortunately never came back to this recipe. So in order to trigger a certain action, you can save them a push notification, which, for example, in this case says, stay home and prepare this recipe you've saved. So you're making sure that in this way, your customers are going to do the desired action. And the last use case of triggered messages that I want to share with you is the store companion. So store companions can enhance your user experience in the store. It can turn on the moment that customers step into your store and give them information about their past purchases, product reviews, and recommendations. You can also set it up to provide additional information on limited time offers, daily happenings in store, etc. Also, another way is to, if your users have a gift card they haven't used before, you can also send them a reminder. Now, a great example about a store companion is the Sephora's companion app, with which when you enter a Sephora store and you have this app with yourself, it will automatically show you all the purchases you have at Sephora, and also it will give you personalized recommendations. So to sum up, these action-triggered push notifications allow you to constantly engage with your customers and to build a durable and beneficial customer-brand relationship, while at the same time to strategically guide them through the customer journey. Now we came to the fourth tactic, and that is retargeting ads as your secret weapon for customer engagement. So what should you do when you see the interest shown by your customers, but somehow they end up abandoning your site before they do any action? And the answer here is just that, retargeting. It is really the most effective way that you can market to all the potential customers who have already shown interest in your product or service. And here's a statistic that I want to share with you, and it says that only 2% of your web traffic actually converts. Now, this is a very small percentage because the rest 98% of customers are still browsing somewhere, waiting to be converted. And in addition to that, you can use retargeting as a strategy for online advertising by showing ads to your customers who visited your site but didn't complete the purchase. So in this case here, you can use Google Ads and Facebook Pixel to help you with that. So let's start first with Facebook Pixel. The most commonly used method is pixel-based marketing. It is really simple as a code installed on your website that target visitors right after leaving your site, and thanks to the infinite number of modern technology advantages. So as a brand, you really don't want to scare people with creepy retargeting though. Use the data you have very wisely to build a strong and long-lasting relationship. So for example, let's say that you wish to target your potential customers with Facebook ads. You can use Facebook Pixel to retarget all the Facebook users that have visited a specific web page on your site. Now, for example, this can be an info web page for a particular product or service in the last 7 days. And with ads, you're going to offer them deals or discounts for that particular product or service. Now let's move on to Google Ads. If you aim to retarget those visitors that clicked away from your site to other websites, even your competitors, you can set up display retargeting ads. Now, with this, you can implement this type of retargeting by placing cookies that will keep track of your website visitors while they browse elsewhere. This way, you are actually making sure that past visitors will see your ads while browsing on other sites and will keep you as a brand on top of their mind. Now, the reason why retargeting pays off is that past visitors are already familiar enough with your brand and are more likely to complete the next action at this stage than people who are seeing your ad or brand for the first time. This is a strategic way of targeting that will demonstrate increased conversion and, of course, solid return of investment if done properly. So right now we have an example of how retargeting ads work. So let's say that you own an online goods store and that you have a web visitor and you have a visitor who's coming to your website. They browsed around and they came to a product info webpage. However, they didn't do anything else here. They didn't buy anything from you. So you decide to use Facebook Pixel and Google Ads to make this visitor come back. So you're putting the visitor in an audience for advertising, and after some time, you decide that you want to show them some ads. And this visitor is targeted with these ads. They see these ads, and then maybe they decide to come back to complete a purchase or the product that they visited, that they saw on your website some time ago. And here we have the last tactic, which is to always do A/B testing and optimize. So I would even say that this is something that you really must do. It's not just a tactic, it's something that you really have to do in order to always improve your strategies. So A/B testing is an essential act of comparison that marketers use to determine which version of an email, push notification, or other types of customer messages perform best in terms of engagement, conversion metrics, etc. Now, this process will help you to make careful changes to your user experience while collecting all the data from the results. And furthermore, you can also use it to continually improve a specific goal over time. So, for instance, if a B2B company wishes to improve the volume from their campaign landing page or the quality of the sales lead, they can do A/B testing on headlines, the visual, the CTA button, etc. So before you start doing A/B testing, there are three practices that you should really keep in mind because they're very important. So the first one is that while running a test, make sure that you do it on a statistically large enough number of users because the larger the sample, the bigger the chances of reflecting the preferences of the average user in your target audience. The second key practice is to make sure you know exactly which elements are you willing to test. Both variants you create must differ in an easily identified way, and because of that, you should always make sure to test on one element only. The third key practice is to be careful while crafting the A and B or even C and D variants. So let's say that for the A version, you use the original message that you have been using for some time now. On the other hand, the B version consists of emojis, creative content, text personalization, etc. So overloading the second variant with several different elements will complicate things. And it will put you in a position where you don't really know what is causing the lift or the drop in your metrics. So here it's very important that you make sure the variants you craft are similar in context with only a few major differences. So you have to keep in mind that these tips or practices in mind, to have these tips and practices in mind while you perform your test across your customer engagement strategy, because this will put you in a much more confident position to drive conversion and retention. So even right now, I told you about the benefits of using customer engagement and plenty of ways that you can increase it with the help of cross-channel marketing. The statistics show that only 55% of the companies only 55% of the companies have no cross-channel strategy in place. Now, this is very sad because it shows that many companies don't pay attention to what their customers want or need, and this puts you. And if you are one of these companies, this just puts you in a very bad position. And sooner or later, you're going to be behind, and your competition is going to perform a lot better than you. So I would really advise you to come up with a strategy that will work the best for your business. Another thing that I also want to mention here is that that brands really need to understand that user experience is so much more than just the sales journey, and it actually extends further beyond the sale itself. So by focusing your business on increasing customer engagement, you focus on creating seamless and valuable experience, resulting in increases in customer satisfaction and, more importantly, in customer lifetime value. Giving your customers the chance to engage with your brand where and how they want to allows them to enjoy the experience while using the channel they're most comfortable with. And no matter the approach and tools that you are using, the truth is that customer engagement can take you far, or at least farther than others in the competitive business environment. So creating a momentum to drive your customers forward should always be on top of your list. And remember that there is no silver bullet, only constant commitment to observation and improvement. So right now we just came to the end of our presentation. I really want to thank you all for your time and for your attention. And I'm terribly sorry for the technical issues. Right now I'm going to answer some of the questions that you've asked. So let's start the Q&A session. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first question. So, is it possible to use offline or traditional channels as well to follow up with customers? Yes, if it makes sense for your business. For example, if you're selling something of high worth, for example, like a car or a house, you can set up in your funnel. Let's say that after the third email you send, you're going to give your prospects a call to see if they need more information about your offer, etc. Um, okay, next question. Can you set up campaigns to be triggered when a customer subscription is about to end, or, for example, if their credit card has expired? Actually, yes. This is a very good example. For one of our clients that we've worked with, which is a huge newspaper from the UK, had a digital subscriptions, and we helped them to set up campaigns that remind subscribers that their credit card is due to expire in a month. Now, this helped our customer to retain 20 to 30% of their paying subscribers that would, in another situation, forgot to update their payment details and would have stopped their subscription. Next question. Do you need help from developers to create such personalized campaigns? Well, most often you will need some support from your development team at the beginning to set up all the right data points and to make sure to set up the pre-configuration process. But what is really amazing here is that most of the modern cross-channel engagement platforms are really easy to use, and they have user-friendly drag and drop tool sets that enable a marketer or a CRM manager with really just a basic knowledge of HTML to set up advanced personalization in the messages all on their own. So basically, you really don't depend that much on your development team. Okay, so let's see another question if we have. Okay, so I don't see any question right now. Maybe it's because of the technical issues we have experienced, but I also want to share two questions that some of you were very kind to ask me, that you sent me an email and asked me. And it says, I'm going to tell you the first question, which is, just a second. Okay, it's about retargeting ads. It says, can I retarget customers with ads that feature the exact product they looked at on my website? So this is something that I've touched a little bit earlier. And yes, this is a very common use case of this tactic. If your website has a separate product page or for each product, it is very easy to set up audiences in Facebook Pixel of all the users that have visited that particular web page but didn't visit the thank you page, meaning they haven't finished purchasing that product. So then you can just create ads with images of that product and target this audience. And this audience is automatically updated every time the pixel registers new customers, so you know you won't be showing the ad to someone who has already bought a product. Okay, and the last question that I'm going to answer is this one, and it says, is it possible to test more than 2 variants of a campaign? Well, some more modern customer engagement or marketing automation platforms will enable you to test multiple variants and even test multiple things at the same time. Now, for example, in Brace, which is a customer engagement platform, users can set up to 8 different variants of a campaign. And what's even more interesting here is that with their intelligent testing feature, we can leave it up to the machine learning algorithm to figure out which variant is winning and allocate more of your audience to that variant while you enjoy seeing the results. But remember, I want to note here that I really don't recommend you to test more than one element in each testing round, because that way you won't really know which variable to attribute the success or the failure of your variant. Okay, so I'm going to finish the presentation here, and I want to thank you all for your attention. If your question hasn't been answered, don't worry. I'm going to send you an email with the recording of the webinar and the answers of your questions. Once again, I want to thank you all so much, and I really enjoyed talking about customer engagement. It's been a pleasure to talk about something like this, and I really want to say that customer engagement is both an opportunity and a challenge at the same time. So it's not only important to come up with a strategy that will be suitable for your business, but it is also very important to implement and execute the strategy the right way. So here at Elite International, we have great teams that can help you to build out the perfect strategy for your business and to implement it the right way. So if you happen to have any more questions, please feel free to drop me a line and I will be answered to get back to you. So thank you once again and stay tuned for our upcoming webinars. Bye guys.